Hi there, Jeff here from the Wetsuit Centre, talking to you today about the Oneill Psychotech range of wetsuits for summer 2020, spring 2020. So we say summer or spring, and basically in the UK that tends to mean the thinner side of the wetsuits, which will be like the 3mm, so 3 and 2, or 4 and 3, which tend to be used sort of typically in the spring and the autumn, and sometimes right the way through summer as well, depending on your tolerance for the cold. So essentially, the Psychotech these days is the top-end wetsuit that Oneill do. So they've dropped the Psycho Freak last year, and instead, the Psychotech is now the top-end wetsuit that you're looking at within the Oneill range. The reason for getting rid of the Psycho Freak, there was sort of too many crossovers really between the Psychotech and the Psycho Freak, and there wasn't a huge amount of extra tech that you were getting in the Psycho Freak that was really sort of driving people to spend the extra money and go for a sort of essentially a stitchless wetsuit. So there wasn't really the demand for that. So sensibly, to simplify the range, they've stopped at the Psychotech now, and I think it's a good idea because the Psychotech pretty much does everything that you need in a summer wetsuit especially, but also a winter wetsuit. So the Psychotech, the top-end wetsuit from Oneill. What's it all about? Basically, it's a combination of all of the technologies that you get through the range to hopefully provide you with the warmest wetsuit in the range, but also one of the most flexible wetsuits and one of the most durable wetsuits as well. So rather than having some of the technology like the Techno Butter with the Hyper Freak for performance, or the Psycho One where you get the Techno Butter and liquid taping to give you a bit more durability, this suit is all about the combination of different technologies including thermal lining, and the Techno Butter 3 TBX neoprene to give you sort of hopefully the best of both worlds. So what I'm going to do first off is take you through the outside of the suit and what you're looking at. We'll turn it inside out and then walk you through what's happening inside the wetsuit and what you get for your money essentially. And the difference is say between the Psycho 1 and then when it jumps up to the Psychotech, the bits that you're getting extra, we'll highlight those points as we go along as well. So what I'll do first is grab the suit here for you. Okay, so we come a little bit closer on the wetsuit. We can have a little look at the outside before turning it inside out. So the Psychotech comes in lots of different colourways. This one is Abyss. The Abyss colour is basically like a dark blue, and then they use the gold to just sort of offset that on the logo. I think it looks kind of nice, and it's a colour that's run through winter and it will go through summer as well. So the key change with the Psychotech from this year to last is the thickness of the suit. Okay, so what they've done with this and the Hyper Freak as well, is basically added 0.5 mm of neoprene, which is what the plus sign comes from. So when you see online the Psychotech Plus or 4.3 Plus or 3.2 Plus, basically what that means is 3.5, 2.5 or 4.5, 3.5. Okay. The reason they've done that is because the neoprene in the suit, which is the Techno Butter 3 or TBX neoprene, is so flexible and they're so sort of confident in the flex of the suit. That's allowed them to add another 0.5 mm of neoprene to just add that a little bit of extra warmth. And I think it's a really good thing because what you can do is you can drop the thickness of your suit but still keep the warmth, but basically pick up loads more flexibility. So what a lot of people have done within this sort of 4mm or 4.5, 3.5, so the 4.3 Plus, they're using that in the UK now for their winter wetsuit. Depending on your tolerance for the cold, that's more than doable because the suit with all the thermal lining and the extra 0.5 mm of neoprene does keep you super warm, especially sort of in the spring and autumn, but even in the winter. And so some people are going for that sort of a vibe. They're going for the additional flexibility of having a slightly thinner wetsuit, but basically relying on the heat of the beneficial sort of heat qualities of the suit, so the thermal lining, that thing, to keep them warm, and the sort of insulation properties of the neoprene itself. And then they can wear a thinner wetsuit even in colder water, and that applies to the 3mm as well. So you've got 3.5, 2.5 essentially with the 3.2 Plus. And the bonuses of that is you can essentially wear a 3.2 where you would normally wear a 4.3. So if you're using this suit in springtime, then you could quite easily, for sort of April onwards, get away with the 3.2 Plus. But obviously have all the extra benefits of having that additional flexibility from a slightly thinner suit. So something definitely worth bearing in mind. And then if you do really feel the cold, even in summer, 3.2 Plus is going to give you that little bit of extra warmth because the water temperature doesn't get that warm in the UK, really up to sort of 19 degrees max. and that sort of extra plus or half a mil of neoprene will just keep you warm on those sort of particularly dreary summer days that we get in the UK. And particularly good for Europe as well. So European winters, down in the sort of south of Portugal, that kind of thing. Pretty confident you could get away with a 3.2 plus or a 4.3 plus if you really feel the cold, or if you're a bit further up in France, depending on the water temperature, that kind of thing. But it's really a judgment call, but it's a nice little touch and does mean that you can lose a bit of thickness, get the extra flexibility, but without getting cold in the wetsuit. So, moving on to the neoprene itself, which is the key selling point with most of the Oneill upper end suits. You've got the TBX neoprene in this, Technobutter 3, the whole way through. And what that basically means, you can sort of see the zigzags there if I go close to the fabric. Hopefully get that nicely in focus. Basically what that is, the actual lining of the fabric, or the lining of the neoprene, sorry, the fabric, a lot of the cotton is dropped out of the weave, and you can see there. And what that does, it basically means there's less cotton running across the suit, which in turn means that you have more flexibility, less restriction. The water is sort of not absorbed into the suit as much, so it stays lighter and it dries quicker as well. So loads of really positives, really good positives, and having that sort of dropped cotton or dropped weave on the suit. And then you've also got within the sort of core of the neoprene itself is the envy foam. What that basically means is the neoprene itself, the actual rubber, has more cells of air within the rubber itself. So what that will do is give you more flexibility, more stretch in the suit, but also traps more warm air as it leaves your body, and then uses that to insulate you by trapping that warm air in the little bubbles. So it's better at keeping you warm, and it also gives you more flexibility, and that's the envy foam, which lies underneath the actual sort of lining of the wetsuit, which in turn has that dropped weave, giving you more flexibility and quicker drying properties as well. So those are the sort of key benefits of the TBX neoprene. What we'll do is turn it inside out, and you'll be able to see the sort of the inside of the suit, what they've done, and it was sort of, it's quite a sort of notable thing, which is on the outside of the Hyperfreak. But we'll do that in a second. Moving further down the suit, you've got the liquid taping on the seams. Liquid taping is the whole way through the Psychotech. It's kind of an old school tech now, it's been around quite a while. And what that does is just reinforces the seams, means that no water is getting through these. It's nice and wide, so it really seals the seam. It makes the suit more durable and ensures that you're likely going to get more of a shelf life out of the suit as well, because it really reinforces the seams. On the inside they're taped as well. Again, we'll turn it inside out in a second, you can see that. But essentially that liquid taping is really good, just giving your suit a bit more shelf life. Does give you a little bit more restriction, I think, but you know, the benefits of having a suit that's going to last more than a year sort of outweighs having a little bit more restriction in the movement of the suit. Further down as well, you've got the standard stuff like the Duraflex knee pads. These knee pads are made of just like a standard material, which is really robust. Really good if you duck dive with your knee, particularly good if you're sort of using it something where you are on your knees. I don't know if you're sailing or kneeboarding or something like that. It's going to give you a bit more durability in the suit again, but it's pretty much a standard thing these days. All of the seams, the cuffs and everything, is sort of like a pinched cuff. Now what that does is basically creates a better seal with your gloves and with your boots, and there's less sort of intrusion of having a big thick piece of neoprene. It's just like a nice detail, less chance for it to wear as well, or the neoprene to peel away. And then on the inside of the cuff you've got a small piece of liquid taping there as well, just to make sure that the cuffs don't sort of fold back if you fall off at speed. And it just gives a tighter seal around your wrists and around your legs as well. Another key benefit of this particular suit as well is the air insulation, which is called a Technobutter air firewall, they call it. And essentially the air firewall is the lining inside, but the key sort of thing you're looking at here is the sort of honeycomb effect. And what that is a tiny little, there's basically 3 pieces of neoprene sandwiched together to make this one panel, and the inner piece, or the sort of inside piece of the 3, it is sort of punctured with these air pockets, basically like a honeycomb effect. And these little pockets of gaps, or gaps between the neoprene on the inside, just catch warm air as it leaves your body, and basically use that warm air to insulate you. Been around for quite a while now, the Airprene or XDS neoprene, and basically it does just a really good job of keeping heat actually inside the foam, and then using that sort of heat inside the foam or that insulation to keep your body warmer, or keep heating your body for longer, keep you in the water for longer. And they use that on the chest panel, you can see there, and then they use it on the back panel as well. Okay, so you've got that sort of air insulation front and back as well. The last thing that's worth mentioning on the outside of the suit is the sort of chest entry system here. Okay, now moving a bit closer, got a spare piece of neoprene here. You can sort of see a little bit of the TBX inner lining there as well, which we'll talk about in a second. But essentially, you've got this PK zip, which is a really good quality zip that won't break or corrode or get clagged up with salt. Okay, the zip as well moves from outside to inside to out, which means you don't have to sort of clip it on and pull it across. When you've got cold hands, it zips from in to out across there. Okay, now essentially with the chest entry suit, the chest piece is sewn over the inside of the suit. So this is the actual inside of the suit here. Then the chest zip is sewn over the top, sealed across and around the back, meaning that any water that comes in through the collar here, rather than going into the suit, is trapped by this chest entry system. And then what they'll do is use the drain holes, so the drain hole there, and around the back, I'll flip it over, to drain any excess water out. Okay, so essentially the chest zip is sort of sewn over the actual inside of the wetsuit, and any water that does come in is then basically drained out of the suit, meaning that you should stay, in effect, pretty dry. Okay, the zip itself is a code red zip, which is a specially treated zip for stop water penetrating the zip and coming into the suit. And then you've also got this little toggle here, which just sort of clips it down, and you can pull it tight with the toggle on the side here, just to create a really good bond, a really good seal, and stop any water coming inside the chest zip. So that's pretty much everything going on the outside of the wetsuit. We'll turn it inside out for you and then show you what features look within. We have the inside of the suit, doing everything nice and close for you so you can get an idea of what the fabric looks and feels like. Because that's basically where the magic lies, the sort of feel and the stretch of the fabric, because that's going to be the thing that gives you flexibility and gives you warmth. First thing you'll notice on the sort of top end of the suit, you get that sort of stripy effect. And basically that's the TBX neoprene. And what's going on here, you can actually see this on the outside of the Hyperfreak, it's on the inside now as well. And this is just the lining on the actual neoprene itself. And what they do is Oneill have got a special way of treating this fabric where they drop out the cotton, but they also, with this particular style, they pre-break it, so they pre-break the sort of lining of the fabric. Someone actually does that in the factory in China, and essentially what that does is gives even more flexibility above the techno butter, and you will sort of feel that it's not just like a slight thing. You pick up this suit or pick up a Hyperfreak and you give it a stretch, it is noticeably massively more flexible than most neoprene. So you get that in the whole upper part of this suit. As I said at the start of the video, this suit is about warmth and flexibility and durability as well. So what you get with this suit in the lower part of the body, you'll notice, is basically that sort of air firewall that we talked about before. Now obviously this is going to add a lot more warmth to the suit, but it does make the suit heavier and less flexible than if you just had the neoprene, the TBX neoprene like you get with the Hyperfreak. But if we go nice and close, this isn't like the sort of like flash bomb stuff that you get in Rip Curl. It's not as fluffy, or the dry knit lining, or the graphene lining with Billabong. It's a little bit more, to keep it more sort of like low power, more flexibility, that streamlined feel, which is more in keeping with giving you more flex. Oneill go with this sort of like tighter weave, which is a bit more of a traditional thermal lining. It's still a similar stuff. It's basically polypro, and what that means is, but it's non-absorbent, so it dries super quick. There's less weave in it, but it's still really, really good at insulating you. Okay, and what that'll do is allow the suit to dry quicker as well, but also give you loads of insulation, especially combined with the air insulation around the chest and kidneys as well. The suit is fully taped. You've got the sort of a TBX taping here, and in the lower body and around the knees, but around the chest you do have that liquid taping as well, just because the chest panel is always a dodgy part of the suit. Not dodgy, but it's more prone to sort of pulling apart, so that liquid taping just really reinforces it. And obviously on the outside you don't have a seam, you've just got welding, so just to reinforce the suit. It's what you expect with an Oneill suit. Your attention to detail, everything's thought about. But essentially that's everything going on in the inside of the Psychotech. Another factor people definitely take into consideration when they're sort of choosing the wetsuit that they want to buy will be the environmental factor. And obviously in these sort of modern times we're all trying to, as people that enjoy the water, lessen our impact on the environment and on the water, basically because it gives us the sport that we love and the sport that we enjoy. Oneill, obviously there are companies out there like Patagonia who are really at the forefront of creating technologies which minimise our impact on the environment. So when making wetsuits, because wetsuits are not good for the environment, the way that they're made, lots of solvents, lots of heat and byproducts basically which have to be disposed of, and a lot of carbon output basically, so a lot of negative things, as is the same with surfboard production as well. So people are trying to put their heads together and trying to sort of lessen our impact but still give you the product which will allow you to get into the water and enjoy the sport that you love, especially in colder water. So companies like Patagonia are great at that, with the new sort of type of materials they're trying to use instead of neoprene, using plant-based products. But Oneill, they could cut more corners if they wanted to, and obviously make the suits cheaper or make more profit in terms of the actual process of making the suit. But there are some things they're trying to do, or processes that they're including in the making of the suit, which are less cheap options, but are better for the environment as well. Things like the aqua-based glues to actually bind and glue the seams of the wetsuit, less toxic than the standard or the old sort of style glues basically, but still just as good, and much better for the environment, for the water. So that's a positive thing. And it's the dope dyeing as well, the dope dyeing the yarn or the actual lycra which surrounds the suit. The old process, it was sort of dunked and you had a huge amount of coloured water or toxic sort of coloured water, chemically affected water as a byproduct, which had to be disposed of, and you don't get any of that with the dope dyeing process, which is a lot of the manufacturers use that, but Oneill are one who also use that as well. And then you've got the limestone based neoprene as well. Still not fantastic, but it's a more eco-friendly way of producing the neoprene or the rubber, and they use a lot of recycled tyres as well. I think pretty much the whole of the neoprene they use is from recycled tyres as well, so it's a more expensive process to get those materials, but it does reflect in the cost of the suit as well obviously, but Oneill have decided that's the way to go going forward, which is nice that they actually think like that as a company. So essentially that's everything going on with the Psychotech wetsuit, inside and out, and I hope that's been of use to you, and it would definitely be a suit that we would recommend at the Wetsuit Centre.